Hi students, today we are going to continue learning about the standard MSEH 3-1, and again we're continuing to focus on the word energy. We're looking at fossil fuels again, but we are going to start focusing more on the impact that fossil fuels have on ecosystems and the societies around the world, which is LT4. So let's get started. So last week you guys learned that most of the United States, the energy comes from fossil fuels, coal, petroleum, natural gas, almost 80%, as well as the rest of the world. Let's start by talking about why fossil fuels are still the most commonly used form of energy, despite a lot of the consequences that we always hear about. Well, first of all, fossil fuels are able to produce a really large amount of energy. So each unit of fossil fuel that's burned releases a very large amount of energy that is able to be used for other things. Another reason is it's very stable. So this graph actually, or table, actually shows you um, that fossil fuels are made out of hydrogen, which is represented by the H, and carbon, which is represented by the C. Over here, it actually shows you the amount of energy that each type of fossil fuel is able to release. And you can see natural gas, petroleum, and coal actually release quite a bit of energy here. Another reason why fossil fuels are consistently being used is transportation. Fossil fuels are able to be easily transported from one place to another. So let's say a country has a lot of fossil fuels and they want to trade with another country or sell it to another country. It's very easy to deliver the fossil fuel from one country to another. Another reason is if you take a look at this map, fossil fuels are pretty abundant. Abundant meaning they're actually found everywhere, all around the world. And so it's very easy for people all over the world to kind of access this source of energy and to use it to power other things in their lives. Reason number 5, fossil fuels are very cheap. Because fossil fuels are found so commonly around the world, it's very easy to extract them and to buy or sell them. If you take a look at this graph right here, it actually compares the cost of coal, oil, and gas to solar energy, and you can see that there's a huge cost difference between fossil fuels versus solar. Solar costs around 40 cents per hour, whereas coal, oil, and gas are less than 5 cents per hour. Finally, reason number 6 is business and consumer demand. A lot of the products that we use today are really dependent on fossil fuels. This picture actually kind of shows you all the items. Let me just move this around a little bit for you. A lot of the items that we use today, oops, sorry. A lot of the items that we use today in our world are actually made from oil, petroleum, and here are some items that you may find familiar. And as long as we have consumers that are consistently consuming these products, fossil fuels will continue to be used. Okay, let's keep going. There's a big question where people are concerned if we are ever going to run out of fossil fuels. There's no really clear answer as to when that will actually happen. There are only predictions. However, we do know that we consume about 11 billion tons of fossil fuels per year, the whole world. And based on that consumption rate, there's a graph right here that kind of shows and predicts if we continue to consume at that rate when coal, gas, and oil will run out. And you can see coal is the most abundant, so it's going to run out the latest. But oil is the least abundant, so it may run out the first time, or the first out of the 3. However, this is just a prediction. The fact is we have not found all the fossil fuels that are under the earth. We're still discovering new reserves. So it's unclear as to when exactly we will run out. But it is predicted that um, the amount of pollution that is released by these fossil fuels is more of a concern than worrying about when we're running out. So let's take a look at that next. So this table kind of shows you the kinds of pollution that fossil fuels release. So the number one pollutant is carbon dioxide. And as you know, carbon dioxide is a byproduct of burning these fossil fuels that are primarily made of carbon. And the concern is that carbon dioxide, when it's in the atmosphere, it's going to act as a greenhouse gas and also trap more of the sun's heat, which warms the earth. These are some other gases. Carbon monoxide is very poisonous, as well as nitrogen oxide. Causes smog, um, and mercury is extremely toxic. So obviously, fossil fuels cause a lot of pollution. So it's a big concern that we're continuing to use these a lot. So if you look at the sources of carbon dioxide pollution in the United States, most of it comes from petroleum. You see this? The second biggest is coal, and the third is natural gas. So now let's talk. Okay, so now let's talk about the consequences of burning coal. Burning coal releases sulfur dioxide, which is a pollutant. And what happens is the sulfur dioxide gas will combine with moisture in the air from the water cycle, and it's going to make sulfuric acid, and then it's going to rain down back onto the land and in the water. And acid precipitation is very bad for plants and animals, as you can see here. Um, these trees were withered away by acid rain, and acid rain in streams and rivers is very deadly to fish. So, uh, coal is very negatively affects ecosystems. And currently, coal accounts for around 30% of greenhouse gases in the United States. And it also contributes to global warming because of that. Let's look at the consequences of mining coal. Mining coal is really dangerous because, as you know, as humans dig down, it can lead to accidental explosions or fires. People can get trapped in the mines. The coal dust that you see right here is also very deadly to the human respiratory system, so your lungs. So it's um, very not very safe to be in a coal mine. So the alternative to coal mining or is to strip mine. And strip mining is less dangerous because basically you are getting rid of all the soil that's above the coal and kind of stripping the land to expose the coal. The problem with strip mining is that it's destroying habitats and getting rid of rich topsoil that could have been used for farming or could have been used for plants to grow in. Coal mining can also pollute water supplies, groundwater, or it can run off into streams, which is another problem. Now let's look at consequences of burning petroleum. So petroleum is responsible for 42% of the greenhouse gases in the United States. And of course, as I've mentioned earlier, greenhouse gases will trap heat in the earth and cause global warming, which affects many ecosystems such as the marine ecosystems, and in Arctic ecosystems where the ice is starting to melt. The other consequence of burning petroleum is that it causes smog. So smog is a kind of a fog that's produced by sunlight and air pollutants like nitrogen oxide. And in Los Angeles, where we are, of course, we have lots of cars, and um, our smog in our area is a lot worse because of that. And it is known that smog can cause respiratory damage to your lungs and can also cause cancer because it has so many free radicals that can damage your DNA, which leads to cancer. Let's look at consequences for drilling for petroleum. Um, when people drill for petroleum, there is a chance that the oil can spill. And if it happens in the ocean, it is very, very toxic to marine life, and it's very, very difficult to clean and control. And oil spills usually happen when tankers, which are the big ships that carry the oil, might spill. It could also be when offshore drilling sites, such as this one, can explode and spill oil into the surrounding environment. And you can see in these pictures, these are all um, consequences of oil spills. Now let's talk about some of the consequences of burning natural gas. So it's been said that natural gas is cleaner burning than other fossil fuels. So if you look at this chart right here, it actually compares the amount of greenhouse gases emitted by coal, oil, and then natural gas. And out of the three fossil fuels, the natural gas has the least amount of greenhouse gases. So that's why people argue it's cleaner. However, it still does emit carbon dioxide and pollutants in the air that damage respiratory systems and ecosystems. So it's less than the other fossil fuels, but it still contributes to climate change and global warming. And currently, 27% of the greenhouse gases in the United States come from natural gas burning. Finally, let's talk about the consequences of drilling for natural gas. So you may have heard of the term fracking, and fracking is a type of drilling that's controversial today. Well, first of all, let me tell you what fracking is. It's when there is fluid being pumped down into shale where it contains natural gas. And what happens is they pump water, sand, and chemicals down this tube to form fractures or fissures in the shale. And once it once that form these cracks form, the natural gas will flow out from the shale, and you can extract the natural gas from there. The problem is it's known that chemicals in the fluids that they pump down through this pipe are known to cause cancer. They can be radioactive, and they could also be endocrine disruptors, which are basically chemicals that damage your hormones in humans and animals. So, and what happens is sometimes these chemicals can leach out and go into the water sources, groundwater sources, and can contaminate the water. And this is what this picture is showing. These two pictures, actually. It's also been debated that fracking, because you are causing fractures or fissures, and because they're being done in a very large area, it could also lead to more frequent earthquakes. So that's the other reason why fracking is frowned upon currently. There's been a lot of talk around fracking, and there's a lot of debates over whether fracking is beneficial or dangerous, and we can talk about that debate more in class. But for now, this is just an overview of all the consequences of using fossil fuels.